Homeowners at the end. It was our house for 6 months. It's been the only house on this old house that we got to hang out in. Like, not for an hour or two, but for a couple.
In 2003, a banker sent a desperate email about wallpaper. That email changed television history. Kevin O'Connor went from making six figures at Bank of America to hosting America's most trusted home show. He built a $7 million fortune, won Emmy nominations, created an empire. But something's been brewing. He refuses to mention Bob Vila's name. He attacks HGTV shows publicly. Cast members keep retiring. And now, strange rumors are spreading about his future. After months of speculation, Kevin's ready to tell the truth. What he reveals will shock even his biggest fans. Kevin O'Connor's story doesn't begin on a TV set. It starts in the middle of a construction zone. He was born around 1968 or 1969 in Maplewood, New Jersey, into a home that never really felt finished. With 4 brothers and 2 sisters, Kevin grew up surrounded by sawdust and scaffolding. His father was a civil engineer, and their family home often doubled as a job site. Instead of playing tag or riding bikes, the kids passed around hammers and helped pour concrete. By the time he was in primary school, Kevin already knew how to measure wood, hang drywall, and read blueprints. While other kids memorized times tables, he was memorizing how to frame a door. It was chaotic, loud, and completely normal for him. That environment didn't just teach him how to build things, it gave him an instinct for how structures worked. That instinct would later set him apart from every other TV host in the home improvement world. But life threw him a curveball at 19. While doing military training, Kevin suddenly began blacking out. He would just collapse again and again. Doctors ran tests and discovered a heart murmur. It wasn't just a minor issue, it raised real questions about whether he could stay in the military at all. But here's where it gets strange. After that diagnosis, all of his medical records from that time vanished. Gone. Nobody could explain why. That missing paper trail would cause headaches later in life, especially when he tried to track his health history. The incident changed his life's direction. Whatever dreams he had about military service faded, replaced by uncertainty and a need for a backup plan. He had to rethink everything, including what kind of career was even possible with a heart condition that no longer had official records. So he turned to education. In 1986, he graduated from St. Benedict's Preparatory School in Newark. The school was tough and demanded discipline, exactly what Kevin needed. He then went on to the College of the Holy Cross, where he studied history and graduated in 1990. History might sound like an odd choice for someone who would end up hosting a construction show, but it taught him how to research, how to connect ideas, and how to explain things clearly, skills that would become critical later. Still, he wasn't finished. He returned to school and earned an MBA from Boston University in 1999. That opened the door to high-stakes corporate jobs. By the time he finished his education, he wasn't just book smart. He had the confidence to step into boardrooms and hold his own. Kevin didn't just land a job, he launched into a fast-track career in banking. He started at Fleet Bank, working in their sports finance group. This wasn't some boring cubicle job. He helped finance stadiums and large-scale sports facilities. He wasn't just crunching numbers. He was helping build the places where cities gathered. His ability to think strategically caught the attention of top executives. That led to a bigger opportunity: commercial real estate. He joined Bank of America and climbed quickly. By his early 30s, Kevin was a senior vice president. He was managing portfolios worth millions. He had the salary, the bonuses, the stock options, everything that came with a high-flying corporate life. His income was deep into 6 figures. From the outside, it looked perfect. Then he shocked everyone. Kevin O'Connor quit. He walked away from banking, from a powerful title, and from a paycheck that most people only dream about. Why? Because deep down, he never forgot the noise of drills, the smell of sawdust, or the way a well-built wall feels under your hand. In 2003, Kevin O'Connor and his wife Kathleen bought a beautiful Queen Anne Victorian house in Beverly, Massachusetts. It was built in 1894 and looked like a dream. But once they moved in, that dream collapsed fast. The house needed everything: new kitchens, new bathrooms, and even bedroom makeovers. But the real nightmare? The wallpaper. It wasn't just old. It had layers upon layers, painted over again and again. Every room was like a time capsule of bad design decisions. Kevin and Kathleen spent months scraping those walls. Rounded corners, common in Victorian homes, made things even harder. The wallpaper wouldn't budge. Kevin later said, "We were scraping like crazy, and this stuff just wasn't coming off." Kathleen took charge of the plastering, while Kevin knocked down walls and tore ceilings apart to expand the cramped kitchen. They were exhausted, frustrated, and completely stuck. In a moment of pure desperation, they sent an email. Not just to anyone, but to the crew of this old house, the show they had grown up watching. What they didn't know was that, at the exact same time, the show's producers were developing a brand new spin-off called Ask This Old House. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. Kevin wrote in the email that there had to be some trick, some hidden technique to removing that wallpaper. He had no expectations, just a cry for help. The crew responded, and not just with advice. They offered to visit and film a segment at Kevin's house. Kevin was over the moon. To him, this was a one-time visit from his renovation heroes. But what he didn't know was that this visit wasn't just about wallpaper. It was a secret screen test. The crew filmed what would become Season 1, Episode 22 of Ask This Old House, airing on March 6, 2003. Kevin's curiosity lit up the set. He didn't stop asking questions, not even during lunch breaks. Tom Silva, the show's contractor, barely had time to eat. Kevin later joked about it, saying he hounded Tom on every break. But the producers were watching closely. They saw something more than a frustrated homeowner. They saw someone who was natural on camera, someone who asked the same questions viewers at home were asking, someone who felt like a host. After the shoot, Kevin even ran out to take a photo with the crew. He told them he'd never see them again and wanted a picture to remember the moment. But 3 weeks later, something unexpected happened. Kevin got a call, at his job, no less. At the time, he was a senior vice president in the commercial real estate group at Bank of America. When the phone rang, he assumed it was someone asking for a loan. But it wasn't. It was the producers of This Old House asking him to host the show. Not just the spin-off, but the original series too. He thought it was a joke. He even asked his boss to keep his position open because he was sure he'd be back at the bank in a year. That's how unreal it felt. But it was real. The producers didn't just want him. They were ready to stake the entire future of the show on him. And that was a big deal, because This Old House had already seen 2 very dramatic transitions. The first was Bob Vila. He had been the original host, starting in 1979, and built the show into a household name. But Vila only earned $200 per episode at the start. Even in his final seasons, he was only making $800 an episode. Over 10 years and 235 episodes, he earned somewhere between $47,000 and $188,000 for total, less than what many contractors made in a single year. The real trouble started when Vila began doing ads for Rickle Home Centers. Meanwhile, the show was being sponsored by Home Depot and Weyerhaeuser. PBS gave him the green light, but the station pulled back. They told him to choose, The $500,000 endorsement deals? Or the show? Vila chose the money. He was fired immediately. His agent found out from a press release. Then came Steve Thomas. He hosted for 14 years and even won an Emmy in 1998. But in 2003, at age 50, he quietly disappeared from TV. No farewell episode, no big announcement, just a vague statement about wanting to sail and ski. Insiders found it odd. He had helped make This Old House the top-rated show in its category. But suddenly, he was gone, working on smaller shows for the DIY network. Viewers were left confused. Producers were nervous. Whoever came next would be under a lot of pressure. And yet, the person they picked had never worked in TV. Kevin O'Connor never auditioned. He never submitted a resume. He never asked for the job. But he got it. The producers had screened more than 400 candidates to replace Thomas. Then, after one shoot with Kevin, they stopped looking. Kevin sat in a basement, in beach chairs, with the show's creator Russell Morash when he got the offer. That's how informal it was. Morash had been with the show since 1979 and had a very clear reason for hiring him. He said, "In Kevin, we found the perfect mixture of optimism and energy. Two ingredients an old house owner must have to survive." When Kevin O'Connor joined This Old House in 2003, he wasn't welcomed with handshakes or small talk. Richard Trethewey, the show's no-nonsense plumbing and heating expert, simply handed him a shovel. Kevin, a former senior VP at Bank of America, suddenly found himself digging ditches for sewer lines. This wasn't TV drama. It was real, exhausting work. No cameras staged it, no shortcuts. It was Richard's way of testing him. Was Kevin there to look the part or to earn it? Every blister, every drop of sweat was a lesson. Kevin later said that those early days taught him the most important rule: stop talking, start listening, and let the pros lead. That hard lesson would go on to define his entire career. And it wasn't just Richard putting him through the ringer. Tom Silva, the show's master carpenter, threw him into the deep end too. He didn't ask Kevin to pretend with a saw. He told him to cut actual wood for real builds, knowing full well the cameras would catch every mistake. Tom wasn't interested in polished TV hosts. He wanted someone who could learn the craft, not just talk about it. Kevin spent hours off camera learning how to hold tools, how to measure with precision, and how to work safely without slowing the crew down. He wasn't just becoming a host, he was becoming part of the team. And viewers could tell. They saw him struggle, learn, and improve, just like they did in their own garages and backyards. Then came a surprise nobody expected. Just 1 year after he joined the show, Kevin was nominated for an Emmy in 2004. Outstanding Service Show Host. He hadn't even found his rhythm yet, but somehow, the industry saw something. That nomination shocked critics who thought a finance guy had no business hosting a technical show. Bob Vila and Steve Thomas had taken years to build their reputations. Kevin did it in 1 season. His curiosity, his honesty, and the way he connected with experts, those things mattered. And that Emmy nod proved it. He wasn't just hosting. He was changing the way people saw home improvement on TV. Something shifted in Kevin during those first years. He realized he didn't love standing off to the side, asking questions. What he really loved was jumping in, holding a hammer, laying bricks, sweating it out with the crew. And that changed everything. Instead of acting like a guide for the viewers, Kevin became one of the learners. He turned interviews into partnerships. The experts weren't just answering his questions, they were teaching him. And in doing so, they were teaching millions of viewers. This hands-on style didn't just make Kevin more relatable, it made the show feel more real, more grounded. And that's exactly what made people keep watching. The same authenticity carried into Ask This Old House. Launched in 2002, the show was originally meant to feel like a magazine segment. But when Kevin joined, it grew into something much bigger. He wasn't just a host dropping by. He visited actual homes, solved real problems, and got his hands dirty. What made this wild was how he got the job in the first place. He was discovered while removing wallpaper from his own home. Zero TV experience. Just a guy who needed help with a project. By 2025, the show had run for more than 20 years with Kevin at the center of it. Not only did he lead the show, but he also joined the editorial board of This Old House magazine, shaping the stories across both TV and print. From finance to franchise builder, his rise was almost impossible to believe. But Kevin wasn't done yet. In 2003, yes, the same year he became host of This Old House, he launched a third show, Inside This Old House. It offered behind-the-scenes looks at the most memorable projects in the show's history. What's wild is that he juggled all three shows at once and was still working at Bank of America. He didn't quit his job until he was sure he could make this career work. That kind of caution made his success even more impressive. He wasn't chasing fame, he was building something that lasted. And Inside This Old House gave viewers a look at the franchise's history, while anchoring Kevin even deeper into the world of home renovation. In 2010, he pulled off something no other This Old House host had done. He jumped to commercial TV. With This New House on DIY Network, Kevin went from public broadcasting to cable without skipping a beat. The show, co-hosted with Amy Matthews, featured smart home tech and new building methods. It was a gamble, new audience, new format, but it worked. The show earned 2 Emmy nominations, and Kevin proved he could lead in both the PBS world and the commercial space. The network specifically picked him for his ability to explain complex stuff in plain English. That blend of TV credibility and real learning made him one of the most trusted names in the industry. Then came his biggest personal project, a book. In 2011, Kevin released The Best Homes from This Old House, packed with over 200 photos showing the most stunning transformations from the show's history. What made it special was how personal it was. He created it with his college buddy Mike Casey, who took the photos. Just 2 friends, 1 idea, and a best-selling book. For the first time, fans got to dive deep into finished homes and hear stories from behind the scenes. It wasn't just about walls and windows. It was about people, families, craftsmanship, and beauty. The book sold big, and it led to Kevin joining the editorial board for This Old House magazine. His voice now shaped the brand across every platform: TV, books, print, and digital. Kevin O'Connor didn't plan to cause a storm, but one interview turned the home improvement world upside down. When asked about modern DIY shows, he didn't hold back. He flat out called most of them crap. Not just dull or lazy, but completely worthless. He said some of them couldn't hold his interest for a nanosecond. That one sentence spread like wildfire across the industry. Viewers were shocked. Other hosts were furious. This wasn't just anyone speaking. It was the face of This Old House, the most respected name in renovation TV. Instead of backing down, Kevin doubled down. He said these shows were misleading the public. Glossy makeovers done in a weekend, budgets that made no sense, and timelines that were pure fantasy. He warned that people at home were trying to copy these transformations and failing. Not because they weren't smart, but because the shows were fake. That hit a nerve. Some insiders praised his honesty. Others said he was being arrogant and trying to gatekeep Who could teach home improvement? But Kevin wasn't just ranting. He was drawing a line in the sand between entertainment and education. On one side, you had networks like HGTV turning renovation into reality TV. On the other, you had PBS, where Kevin stood proud, focused on teaching real skills. He called it the philosophy war. According to him, cable shows encouraged waste. Flip a house fast, make it pretty, sell it for profit. But he wanted to bring attention back to the bones of a house, to real craftsmanship. He even said these flashy shows were dangerous. They made people believe they could gut their kitchen over a weekend and do it right. And that kind of belief could lead to real damage. Soon, HGTV stars started firing back. They said Kevin didn't understand their audience. They weren't building cathedrals. They were helping regular people believe they could make changes at home. The divide got bigger, and Kevin didn't flinch. But what really puzzled people was what Kevin didn't talk about. Bob Vila, the man who started this old house in 1979 and left under a cloud in 1989. Kevin never mentioned him, not once. Bob had been making $500,000 a year in endorsements while hosting a show funded by public television. When he endorsed a rival store to Home Depot, who backed the show, it exploded into a scandal. He was forced out, and yet Kevin kept silent. For more than 20 years, not a word. No tribute, no judgment, nothing. Insiders think the silence is deliberate. A smart move. Vila is still big in the home renovation world. Bringing up the past might only reopen old wounds. Kevin has always played the long game, staying out of fights that don't benefit him. That's how he kept friends on both sides of the industry, even when things got heated. But there's one area where Kevin refuses to stay quiet: craftsmanship. Say something negative about how homes were built a century ago, and he'll correct you. He says old builders weren't stupid. They made smart choices based on what they had. Coal was cheap. Fiberglass insulation didn't exist. And power tools? Forget it. So yes, some homes didn't have insulation, but that made sense back then. According to Kevin, modern builders are quick to mock these choices without understanding the context. He also pushes back against the tiny house craze. People love to say smaller is greener. But Kevin argues that size doesn't always equal inefficiency. He says a 5,000 square foot modern house can use less energy than a poorly built 1,000 square foot one from 15 years ago. That got him into arguments with sustainability experts, but he doesn't care. He wants people to understand before they judge. Behind all these opinions is a man who's done very well for himself. Kevin earns around $10,000 per episode for This Old House and Ask This Old House. That's over 380 episodes hosted as of 2022. Millions earned just from TV. Compare that to Bob Vila, who earned only $200 per episode in the early days and maxed out at $800 by the end. Kevin's rate is more than 12 times higher. Vila made around $5,200 per season. Adjusted for today's money, that's about $15,000. Kevin, on the other hand, made that in 2 episodes. Today, his net worth is estimated between $5 million and $7.68 million. But the money doesn't stop at television. Kevin's become a major name on the speaking circuit. For each keynote, he pulls in anywhere from $15,000 to $50,000. He doesn't just show up and talk about hammers. He energizes entire industries. In 2024, he was the main speaker at Equip Exposition, a huge landscaping trade show in Kentucky. Sponsored by Cress, his talk focused on the future of contracting, equipment, and staying ahead of industry shifts. These speeches aren't just about money, they're about influence. They allow him to connect with manufacturers, builders, and company heads. He's no longer just a host, he's an authority. And that reach opens doors to partnerships, investments, and strategic deals. And that's where Kevin's past life comes in. Before TV, he was deep into real estate finance. At Fleet Bank and Bank of America, he worked as a vice president, structuring multi-million-euro loans for developers and pro sports franchises. That gave him the kind of inside knowledge most TV hosts don't have. He knows how to spot a good investment, he knows how to structure deals, and he knows how to make money work. He's quietly invested in stocks worth $5.1 million at Bridge, the company where he's CEO. Those assets earn him around $1.5 million a year. And he didn't buy a flashy new build for his family. He bought a Queen Anne Victorian house from 1894 in Hamilton, Massachusetts. It's not just a home, it's a statement, a showpiece, a place that matches his values and his brand. Kevin O'Connor didn't just inherit a show, he took on a legacy. And somehow, he kept it alive through some of its toughest moments. The biggest challenge came in October 2022. Norm Abram, the heart of this old house, retired. He had been there since the very first episode in 1979. That's 43 years of sawdust, sweat, and unmatched craftsmanship. He wasn't just the carpenter. After Bob Vila left, Norm became the face of the show. For years, it was Norm who explained the hard stuff, guided the projects, and even filled in when Kevin had to step away. Like during the birth of Kevin's son. Losing Norm was like losing part of the show's soul. But Kevin didn't panic. He planned the transition carefully. He made sure viewers weren't thrown off. He slowly introduced new faces, while still keeping Norm's spirit alive on screen. A similar thing happened in 2020 when Roger Cook had to leave due to health problems. Roger had joined in 1982, and for nearly 40 years, he was the soft-spoken landscape expert who brought calm and knowledge to every yard. His absence could have left a gap. But again, Kevin handled it with care. He brought in Jen Nawada gradually, making sure the show still felt like this old house, not a reboot. What made Kevin's handling of these changes so smart was how he respected the past without getting stuck in it. He didn't just replace people, he passed the torch gently, keeping the show's identity intact. But Kevin didn't stop at cast changes. He knew the way people watched TV was changing too, so he changed the format without losing what made the show special. Back in the Bob Vila days, you'd see one long take, sometimes 12 minutes, with Bob walking through a site explaining everything. Even in Kevin's early days, they'd shoot 4 to 6 minute scenes without cuts. But today, attention spans are shorter. Kevin adjusted. Now, camera shots last seconds, not minutes. Segments are tighter, sharper, faster. But the show never became shallow. He shifted his questions too. In the beginning, he played the curious homeowner, asking, "What is this?" Over time, he asked deeper questions. How does this work? And why is this done this way? He used his 20-plus years of experience to get more meaningful answers for viewers, without losing the beginner-friendly tone. Kevin also kept the show's slow, focused approach. Unlike other home shows that zip through 5 projects in one episode, this old house still does just 2 full renovations per season. That's it. But every step is shown, every problem explained. It's still about the how, not just the wow. And that's what loyal viewers love. Then came the digital age, and Kevin was ready for that too. In October 2019, he launched Clear Story, a podcast that dives into the stories behind home systems. It wasn't just filler content, it was smart, engaging, and deep. Topics ranged from how windows work to why Las Vegas might hold the secret to lower water bills. The show became a hit, ranking in the top 1% of all streamed podcasts and pulling a 4.8 out of 5-star rating on Apple. In 2021, this old house made a bold move. It partnered with Roku. Now, all 1,500 episodes from both This Old House and Ask This Old House are available to stream for free. They even have a 24/7 streaming channel. That means fans can tune in anytime, on any device, without needing cable. And Kevin didn't stop there. He co-founded This Old Toolbox, a tool rental platform made for the DIY crowd. It wasn't just a business move, it was the next step in a clear vision, connecting the show's educational content directly with the tools people need to do the job. So yes, Kevin O'Connor hosts a home renovation show, but what he really does is preserve a legacy, modernize a format, expand into new platforms, and build bridges between media, education, and real-world action.